The much-awaited European finals, that is the Uefa Champions League, is finally here with us. The long wait is finally over, and these two teams are going to get down in the finals to know, of course, who is going to lift this coveted trophy, the most prestigious in the history of football in European competition. And this match is going to take place in Germany, that is in Bayern Munich. Remember that this is the very first time that both these two gaffers are going to meet in this competition. That is Luis Enrique against Simeone Inzaghi. Very seasoned gaffers, and their history just speaks for themselves. And of course, it's going to be fireworks this coming weekend when these two great teams manage to square out in this European competition to try and see who is going to come out victor in this very crucial fixture. Remember, this is the last match of this competition, and PSG so far is eyeing a quadruple, and on the other side, Intermilan is just eyeing this as their sole cup. Remember that they were pipped in the title in the Serie A league when Napoli managed to lift that cup. And of course, Simeone Inzaghi will be going on gun blazing trying to lift this cup, which of course has eluded him. And now this is the very second time that Inzaghi is going to try his luck to try and win this competition. Remember, the last time that Inter Milan managed to play was way back in 2023 when they were defeated in the finals against Manchester City. And on the other side, Luis Enrique, the last time that he tasted victory in this very important competition was way back in 2015 when he managed to win it with Barcelona. That is more than 10 years ago, and he'll be trying to go one better to try and win, of course, this competition with, of course, PSG. Well, before we get down to it, remember to view, like, subscribe and share, and you can also drop a comment on the comment section down below. Let's get interactive across all social media platforms, and on Facebook I'm at Molo Collins. Let's exchange views and thoughts and which team is going to win this match, and it's a very tight one, and we are going to see what is going to boil down to try and separate these two great teams. And of course, I'm your host Molo Collins, and I'm going to take you through all the formation and how this match is going to be played, how things are going to pan out, especially in that middle of the park and at the heart of that defense. And it's going to be a very close one to call. Well, let's get down to it. PSG against Inter Milan, a match which is going to take place at Allianz Arena. Remember that PSG has never won this competition in their history, and they are chasing their first title in the history of this competition. Remember that PSG has invested very heavily over the years. Remember, at one time they had the likes of course, Leo Messi, Neymar, and at one time they also had the likes of Sergio Ramos and Kylian Mbappe. But so far, Luis Enrique has managed to do a very good job. So far, he has managed to take PSG to the finals with a very not squad as previously had over the years for PSG. And on the other side, you see Simeone Inzaghi, who is the brother of Filippo Inzaghi, the former AC Milan striker, and these two teams are going to square it out. Remember the last time also that Inzaghi managed to reach this final, they were defeated 1-0 by then, of course, champions Manchester City. And a few players are still in that Inter Milan set up, the likes of very experienced Mkhitaryan is still in that squad, and of course the likes of Dumfries and Çalhanoğlu are still in that squad. And the only surviving member in that PSG squad, of course, has to be Donnarumma, and of course there's Marquinhos. Those are the only two members still remaining in that PSG setup. Well, let's go and look at the formation. Both these two teams are known to play 4-3-3 kind of formation, but sometimes we can see that Luis Enrique, being the master of possession, has sometimes tried to tweak at this side of PSG, and you can see it has really transformed this side a lot, especially in the attacking area, and PSG is the most attacking players per goals ratio this season, scoring most goals in the history of this competition just to see them through the group stages. Remember that PSG, to reach this far, they managed to defeat Arsenal, of course, in the semi-finals, both home and away, and it was a very sweet one because many thought that Arsenal was going to give PSG a lot of headache, but they managed to navigate their way through to make it, of course, into the finals of this year's showpiece, the UEFA Champions League 2024-2025 seasons. And on the other hand, we saw Simeone Inzaghi rather managed to dump Barcelona out of this competition. Remember that at one time Barcelona was being touted as the favorites to go ahead and lift this coveted trophy, and of course Hans Flick, but of course Simeone Inzaghi managed to flip things through, and he managed to knock Barcelona, the favorites, out of this competition, and it was a very bitter one to swallow for Barcelona, as they were being regarded as the favorites finally to be dumped out of this competition. And it was way back also when, of course, PSG managed to lose the match that was in the finals, that was 2020, when they managed to lose against, of course, Bayern Munich. And I can really remember clearly that it was Coman second half goal that managed to give, of course, Bayern Munich the win against PSG. And that was the time that PSG also managed to revamp their squad, and this time that Luis Enrique has managed to go for both experience and young talent. Remember that this is the most youngest team in the history of this competition this season, averaging a age of 24 years. That is very young team, and the likes, of course, Vitinha, the likes of course, Joao in that middle of the pack has been very solid for PSG. And on the other side, we have the likes of Calhanoglu, we have the very experienced Mkhitaryan, and of course, in between the sticks there is Yann Sommer, who managed to make very crucial saves that managed to knock out, of course, Barcelona out of this competition. And on the other side, Donnarumma has stood very tall, especially in that match against Arsenal, in both hands, and he managed to make very good reflexes that managed to deny Arsenal any goal in this year's competition. Well, let's go and look at the formation. We've seen that, of course, I've talked about it earlier, and we can see now that Simeone Inzaghi plays a very compact 4-4-2 kind of formation, using, of course, Martinez and Thuram up front, and of course is being flanked by the likes of Calhanoglu, and of course there is Barella, and of course the very experienced person in the name of Mkhitaryan, who has managed to pull the strings in that middle of the pack for, of course, Inter Milan. Well, let's go and look at the league form heading into this competition. We've seen that, of course, as I mentioned earlier, PSG is going for a quadruple, and on the other side, this is the only project, and I think that Inter Milan are banking on for a silverware this season. Remember that Napoli have already been crowned the champions of Serie A, and they've managed to lift the Scudetto in the season of 2024-2025, and of course it's going to be a very difficult match for both tacticians, and I think this is going to be the very first meeting that of course Luis Enrique is going to try and win this competition. Now let's move ahead and look at the formation, and Luis Enrique is a fan favorite of a 4-3-3 kind of formation, and on the other side we're saying that Simeone Inzaghi favors a 4-4-2 kind of formation with, of course, Thuram and of course Martinez at the tip of that attack. And of course it's a very difficult one just to see how things are going to pan out, because maybe the transitioning that is going to be, especially in the middle of the pack, moving forward, is going to be very diverse kind of attack, because we can see that sometimes, of course, when attacking, that of course Inter Milan uses a 3-4-3 kind of formation when they are attacking, but when they are defending, they switch back to a back five with 5 defenders, of course, and 3 midfielders, and of course 2 attackers. That is a very diverse one for any formation to take place. And let's go and look at players that are going to determine this match, and both teams have very good players, very good caliber of players, a pool of players that both coaches can try to choose from to determine this kind of match. And one player who has been on form has to be Dembele, since he joined, of course, PSG from Barcelona. He has been a revelation, scoring in goals, of course, in that League One and, of course, in the Champions League competition. And on the other side, Thuram has been phenomenal, of course, for Inter Milan this season, and that could be seen when they dumped Barcelona out of this competition. This is a very pacey player, a very big player, a player that can score with both headers, a player that can score from close range and far range, and it's going to be a very lethal one. And I don't know how the likes of Marquinhos are going to deal with, of course, Thuram in that tip of the attack for, of course, Inter Milan. And on the other side, we have Hakimi. This is an overlapping defender who can assist and also score very crucial goals for PSG. And Luis Enrique is going to give him the a green light to just move forward, bomb forward, and try to bring in those crosses for the likes of maybe Kvaratskhelia to try and head and give PSG the lead. And there's also Desire Doué. This is a very young player who has also been, well, remember that Inter Milan is a three-time European Uefa champions, and PSG will be trying to do it for the very first time in their history and try to win this trophy. Well, give me your views and thoughts. Which team is going to win this trophy? Is it going to be PSG for the very first time, or is it... So give me your views and thoughts. Which team is going to win these finals? Is it going to be Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, or is it going to be the Italian outfit in the name of Inter Milan? Give me your views and thoughts. Which team is going to win it? And I'm going to sample some of your views and thoughts on our coming show. As for me, my prediction is that I think that PSG is going to win this match, as I've watched them through the very first game of this competition this season, and the kind of play that they've had against especially Arsenal in that semi-finals. I think that PSG is the one that is going to win this match. For the very first time, I'm giving out my views, and you can try and see which, if I'm really correct or I'm wrong. Well, I've been your host, Molo Collins. Let's do this again next time when we manage to meet, and PSG is going to try and win it for the very first time. And of course, the Italian outfit, that is Inter Milan, is going to try and make it 4 in the history of their competition. As for me and the rest of my crew, it's bye-bye for now. This is Sport and TV, your #1 leading sports channel.